Hey guys, and welcome to the Market Manipulation Podcast, the world's premier podcast created for the purpose of discussing implementation strategies or events surrounding manifold markets with at least one episode uploaded for public viewing that is somewhat high quality and is 10 times longer by market close. I'm Jacob.
I'm Andrew.
And this is also featuring Manifold co-founders
Stephen,
Austin, and James.
All right, and maybe other people at some later point. We're in the Manifold Markets office, which has Wi-Fi password rationality, by the way, for the viewers at home. One thing I do want to discuss, you've been using the word market a lot, and it's obviously in the name of this podcast, but obviously markets is no longer the title of Manifold, and it has been rebranded market to question. So what are your thoughts on this rebrand? Also, are we supposed to call them questions now? Are we supposed to rename this the Question Manipulation Podcast?
I think you can call it whatever you like. I think market manipulation makes a lot more sense than question manipulation. So I would hold on to that.
I think someone put that on the Discord as a joke, like Joseph Noonan or something. I don't remember, but.
Yeah, the reason I really like rebranding from Manifold Markets to just Manifold is like shorter. It's like what we use to refer to ourselves. Also, when we were calling
sound
ourselves,
less like crypto.
We sound less crypto-y. People are kind of a little bit scared of markets.
I feel like this particular shirt, it just looks like it's crypto, and especially with no tagline.
Yeah, it's
for the listeners, I'm wearing the Manifold Markets shirt, which is a great shirt, but it looks like crypto.
I never thought about that actually, but I think you're right. Yeah.
Wait, didn't it come smelling like vinegar?
Yeah, this is the shirt that smelled like vinegar for unclear reasons because other people's shirts apparently did not smell like vinegar.
Mine did not.
So I think it was just something about that delivery. I don't think it's your fault.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, does it say question everywhere on the website? Does the website still reference markets? Probably it does somewhere.
Manifold questions.
Manifold
markets.
Yeah, the site is still manifold.markets. I think. We did want to purchase Manifold.com. I don't know if we'll ever get around to that. They quoted us like a pretty high price for it, something like that.
Who has it?
It's like some secret person, I guess. We're like talking about this through a broker, but who knows if that will ever happen. I like Manifold because it's just like easier to remember, shorter to type. If we were calling ourselves Manifold Markets, sometimes people abbreviate that to MM, and that becomes like really hard to disambiguate like what is the MM company. So Manifold is like just cleaner, I think. Yeah.
Speaking of the name, is manifold just like a random word, or is there any connection to the mathematical concept of manifolds?
I love talking about like the name Manifold, mostly because I came up with it. I think like Stephen was very bullish on like Mantic markets.
Oh yeah, you were Mantic before I even joined.
Yes,
very
briefly. And Mantic, for those who don't know, came from Scott Alexander's Mantic Mondays. So even before Manifold
what did Mantic Mondays come from? Like, what is it?
I think
Mantic even mean something?
Yeah, Mantic actually does mean something. It's like a real word. It means like related to like forecasting, predicting.
I see.
It shares a root with the word mantis. Historically, praying mantises were these animals that like people, maybe like Greeks, thought like could predict the future or could So mantis and mantic are both like pretty obscure words relating to forecasting, and then Scott was like, okay, so Mantic Markets is like a great name. And like I think Stephen and Scott are like super literate people who like know a lot about words. I had never heard of the word mantic. It doesn't look like a real word to me, so I was very happy when we decided to make the name change from Mantic to Manifold. And this is actually because Scott reached out to us and was like, I've been using Mantic Mondays for a long time. I don't want to like kind of make it feel like I'm like biased choosing like Mantic Markets over like all the other prediction markets things. So could you change your name? And we're like, yeah, that seems reasonable. We like thought for a long time. We're like looking for like M words that also like would go well with like something markets, and Manifold.markets was like available.
So it was really it was just about like it sounds nice and it starts with the same letter and the domain.
Kind of. So there's 3 reasons that we went with Manifold. The first one is like it sounds like nice. It's mathy. We figured it would appeal to like the audience that we cared about. All of us like math a lot. We were like doing a bunch of math in the early days, like figuring out the dynamic paramutuel math in order to like figure out how that would work. So mathy was like a big draw. Second is it's actually like a common English word. Math people sometimes overlook this, but like if you just use it in English, it means like varied. Like you can say like I have a like
there's a lot of markets.
Yeah, there are manifold markets. The markets are manifold, exactly. There's like lots of different kinds of markets out there, and that's we thought like stood really well for what we were. Now the third best reason I think for calling it manifold is if you bet well, you will earn a many-fold return on your investment. Yeah. So
I didn't think about that.
3 reasons why manifold is the best.
But the concept of manifolds, I guess you can visualize this. Can you visualize the space of markets as a manifold in some higher dimensional space?
Not as far as we even figure out, but I would love to hear if somebody else can come up with the good information for that.
Okay. That was a good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
What are your thoughts and dreams and hopes and plans for the Manifest conference?
Yes.
Upcoming, what day is it? I don't remember.
It's September 22nd to 24th in Berkeley. You can go to manifestconference.net to, right now, pre-register your interest, and I think tickets should be opening for sale pretty soon. Tentatively Friday, but don't hold me to that. We're just trying to open up signups as soon as we can. What are my hopes and dreams for this? I hope a lot of Manifold users come. That's the biggest hope. I hope a lot of people come here and get to meet other people who are fans of forecasting, fans of prediction markets, or just fans of math and other kinds of cool puzzles. We're gonna be in a really nice venue called the Rose Garden Inn for the span of the weekend, starting Friday, then all of Saturday and Sunday. And then we'll just be hanging out. There'll be lots of little small rooms for kinds of small sessions. It's not like a typical conference that's held in a big event venue that has these auditorium halls. No, Rose Garden Inn is kind of actually an inn. So there's lots of tiny rooms that fit 5 to maybe 30 people. We're hoping that participants plan a lot of their own activities, maybe spin up a lightning talk or a small little lecture on this is a thing that I've been working on.
So less stuff as a big, big, like with everyone sort of thing.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be a big lecture hall, or not supposed to be everyone just listens to a few people talk, but rather very decentralized, very kind of cozy vibe is what we're going for.
So people who are planning on attending should think about also things they might like to do or try to see if other people want to do.
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool.
I was talking to Salman about this. Are there any updates on whether non-adults will be allowed to this conference?
We're gonna work really hard to make it so that non-adults will be allowed. Yeah, would love to have.
When I search for Manifest, it says no questions found, which is worrying.
Yeah, our search is a little bit weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, now it worked. Okay, sorry. I want to see if there's any interesting. Is the F capitalized? Is that the?
No, I think we are not doing that. It might have been reasonable just to make the pun a little bit more obvious, but
yeah.
I think Manifest is just a reasonable name.
I also think the pun is pretty obvious.
Okay.
It shows a lot of that.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So now.
I think I kept confusing the word also because originally I feel like I was not just the Destiny thing. I was just associating because manifest is something that happens, right?
Yeah.
I think I was just associating that with the word. So I think the pun is pretty clear.
What do you think is the chance that Levi Finkelstein is one of the speakers at Manifest, according to his own market?
Oh, so he has his own market.
The question is, am I one of the speakers at Manifest?
I believe he'll say words if he goes.
According to his own market, I would probably guess 40%.
It's 29%.
29%.
What do you think is the actual percentage?
Well, what do you call a speaker? I think we're happy to let most people book a room and talk, and if other people want to show up and listen to them talk.
The chance that he attends is lower than the chance he's one of the speakers.
Well, that's an arbitrage opportunity.
Okay, I gotta correct that. Although I don't know if it really is.
Because
he could speak remotely.
Yeah.
I don't know. He could record a video and then
yeah, that's
speak
true.
there but not be there. Yeah, I don't know.
These are.
He's also resolving it. What do you think about betting on prediction markets about your own relationships and
Yeah, it's not for everyone. I mean, obviously, it's a very public kind of act, form of speech. I think one thing I worry about is coming off as a little bit cringy almost. When people post a lot on Facebook about their relationship status, it's a little bit attention seeking. And that's not really my style. The only reason I really do it is because I make Manifold and I really want people to see how differently you can use different kinds of markets. Yeah. I'm a huge believer in dogfooding, and I think
what is dogfooding?
For
the audience, I'm sure. Obviously, we all. Yeah, but just for the audience.
Yeah, great question. So dogfooding is this concept in software development where when you work on a piece of software, it's really good to use it yourself as well and put it through its paces. Otherwise, you risk kind of losing track.
Why is it called dogfooding?
Great question. It comes from, I think, the apocryphal dog food company. So the company that makes dog food is saying our dog food is so good that, we eat our own dog food. So the concept of eating your own dog food became synonymous with using your own software in lots of startups and lots of tech companies. So anyways, I think dogfooding, which is to say using a Manifold in lots of different ways myself, is a really important part in what allows us to make Manifold a good product. All of us on the Manifold team use Manifold daily, hourly sometimes. So that I think helps us make
a
it
natural
big.
platform for that.
Yeah.
And you're doing a similar thing with Manifund, where you have your own budgets that are being granted.
Yes. So Manifund is the charity side of Manifold, and we're working on a regranter program. One thing that was a little bit contentious in the beginning when we started the regranting program is that we gave a grant budget to me and to Rachel separately. And the reason this was a little bit contentious because neither of us have a history of making good grants. You might say that if we were otherwise applying for a role to be a grant maker, we wouldn't have gotten it. But I was defending this as a really important decision because it helps both of us know how to develop the site well for grant maker to. In order to give a grant, we have to go through a pretty lengthy process of reaching out to somebody, offering them money, doing an interview to validate that they're a real person and also working on the project and can use the money productively. And then going on with the write-up, going through that entire flow. Only when you do it yourself do you actually get a sense of what are the pain points by people doing it. So
do you feel like you've made a lot of concrete improvements as a result of Dogfooding, that particular product?
Yeah, I don't know if we made too many concrete improvements yet, but I have a much better mental model of what a regranter goes through. So I can it doesn't really come up as much through the Manifold site, but it comes up a lot in how I recommend regranters talk to their their grantees.
Maybe.
Actually, one more question. What do you think is the probability that Crystal Ballin will release a new episode?
Oh yeah, I did ask. By end of September.
End of September. Have they released any episodes?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
That's why we make fun of them sometimes on this podcast for not being a real podcast at the moment.
Yeah. By end of September. So they were in the impact certificate forecasting round, and I think
they got funded.
Yeah, they got funded, but I don't think they're actually working on their project. Unfortunately, you guys should have applied. You guys would have been a much better bet, apparently.
So,
what's the chance they release an episode? I don't know,
Yeah, how do you
15%?
How do you feel about releasing, creating a platform with such funding decisions that don't pan out? What is that?
Well,
by the way, it's 62%.
62%.
Which is because BTE keeps betting it up. And I think he's probably trolling, right?
Well, he can affect it by releasing an episode.
Yeah,
right?
I know that's the worry.
Yeah.
And I already have about 10,000 no shares.
Oh,
15,000.
okay.
So I don't know, but if you guys wanna bet more now.
Yeah, I would probably bet no as just a hedge because I would again love to have more podcasts about Manifold content come out. I think there was a question in it that was kind of interesting, but I forgot what it was.
Oh no! You asked. He asked about whether what your thoughts were on funding projects that don't come to fruition.
Oh, you wanted to as a real question.
Yeah. In general,
they wrote a really detailed proposal, I think.
They did. I think both for Manifold and Manifund, our goal is to be infrastructure, as opposed to make all the calls ourselves. So we're happy to have lots of meme proposals that are kind of bad, and it's up to the investors in the case of the impact certificates to decide whether the project's good or bad. So if Crystal Ballin ends up not releasing and Scott ends up not funding them with any retroactive funding, that's on the investors. They took a risk, it didn't pan out, that's fine.
Yeah, it can be definitely can be hard to keep up momentum for something. Because for this, I think we had been planning not to do any more after the second one because Jacob realized also, I think we both realized it was more work than we thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
But then you funded us, and so then we had to. And then we did another one.
Which was actually nice.
Yeah, no, it was very nice. And then there was we were holding the bonfire.
But yeah, as is tradition, this is probably the last episode of the market.
All right.
It might actually be this time. Yeah. So what is your backstory and how does that lead into Manifold Markets?
Sure. So I've been interested in prediction markets for a very long time. In fact, some of the first dollars I ever earned were from writing a Python script to arbitrage InTrade, which was an Irish prediction market site that existed a decade ago, until their CEO tragically died while climbing Mount Everest. The true story. That's been in the back of my mind. So you can also relate to
tragic incidents with climbing.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
Sorry.
The background here is that I sprained and fractured my ankle last Saturday while bouldering.
Yeah.
But I'm smart enough to know, or given the relevant base rates, I'm definitely not going to be attempting climbing Mount Everest anytime soon.
That's good. So yeah, there's we made a bounty market on suggestions for things to discuss in this podcast. So we have.
Well, what's your thoughts on not recording episodes at the beach?
And the most liked one is bounties. What are your thoughts on bounties?
The first is so we've recently been exploring adding non-market options to Manifold. And one of the reasons we decided to go down this route is that this is a use case that our users essentially invented for us, and we're doing, before all throughout this last year. People would try to hack our free response markets to serve the same purpose as bounties. So we decided it would be a good idea to add bounties as a first-class feature of the platform, so people could go out and solicit information on whatever sort of stuff that they're interested in. And the other big reason is just like SEO. Having a well-crafted Q&A site is an SEO goldmine, and that could be impactful for us in going forward in the future.
Yeah. Okay. Were you the one that made Manip?
I was, yes.
Yeah. What is your plan for how Manip will take over Manifold? I do follow Manip. I also posted the first Manip tweet, which was
a great honor.
Yeah, it was right in before they decreased the price. It was like a reference to a Mana Planet Canal Panama, because that's what it reminded me of, which is like a famous palindrome, and it was like a Manip, a NACT, and AMA or something, which doesn't really make sense, but it's a palindrome. So
I appreciated it. I think so. Manip was mostly like a fun thing that I made in like an hour or during a hackathon. I don't anticipate it becoming a major part of the Manifold brand. I guess part of my motivation was to quarantine more meme stuff that I don't want to post directly from the main Manifold Twitter account, but that I do think a sizable portion of our audience would be interested in.
Yeah.
So like more separation between serious and memes.
Yeah. And it makes it easier for people, if they don't want to see any of that, they can just block Mana-chan, and all of her anime waifu wisdom will be lost to them.
I should have just blocked.
Let's look at the last
Levi Finkelstein.
Yeah, I was surprised. There's like 72 users that have blocked Levi Finkelstein, apparently.
Is that like more or less than you'd expect?
More. I didn't realize how many people. I don't know. It is a little bit, I guess, grating if there's too much of it.
Wait, so the next one is the potential banning of Levi Finkelstein.
I can answer that if you want, sure.
Yeah.
So the banning of Levi as a user.
Yes.
In general, I personally don't like banning people very much. It's not very nice. I want to use it only in extreme situations. The psychology of trolls on our site kind of eludes me. I find it very hard to model their behavior, given that it doesn't make any sense economically. I don't really understand how all these people have so much free time on their hands to like wreak havoc with our rules. A big problem for an early consumer platform is that we don't have a lot of time to devote to moderation, and it actually takes a surprisingly large amount of work to create a rule set which actually will be good. And immediately after you post any given set of rules, your users will find very, very creative ways to kind of route around them and do really annoying and trollish things that violate the rules, but that are in keeping with the letter of the rules, but violate their spirit. So we're kind of trying to slowly iterate through that process and figure out the rule set which actually works. And given that we're not very committed to legalism at this point. If it makes the site experience worse for people, we're more inclined to take action, even if it goes against our policies or requires us to change what we previously said our policies are.
Do you think in the future your policies will be more like solid or?
Yes, I think. Well, and I think in the long run too, we'll be able to. The end game will have to be automating a lot of these things, and potentially using LLMs or other things to automatically flag spam and other bad content, because what we're doing now will only scale for a brief period of time. And I do think, for the record, some amount of trolling is good. The optimal percentage of trolling is non-zero. They really do, add levity to the platform, and a lot of users do enjoy their antics to some extent.
I enjoy their antics.
Yeah.
It's when they cross over the line and are doing things which are malicious or like trying to scam or defraud other users that it starts to become a problem.
Yeah, and if you had no trolling, then you couldn't have things like the AI market, the AI letter market, where they use trolling as a cover. Right?
Yeah.
That's true. It's important for AI safety in the long run to. I don't know.
No, I'm just saying it's a betting strategy. Whether or not it should be a betting strategy is a different question. One of the other questions on here is why do Manifold admins write such bad resolution criteria?
Sorry.
Burn.
For background, there was someone who anonymously DM'd me that was curious to hear thoughts on. Well, I think this is also something that Isaac King complained about in the past, of like the markets of people in the Manifold team are sometimes more, you know. I think they mentioned the super alignment market.
Well, I
What
once.
do you have to say about that?
Yeah.
Well, I would say I won't speak for the other members of the Manifold team, but part of it is that my desire in creating the markets is impure. I'm trying to latch on to whatever is viral to get the most attention at a particular point in time, and I'm less concerned with good crafting good resolution criteria. I think there are a few. I can think of a few good examples where my resolution criteria were lacking. One of the big ones earlier this year was a market I created on whether Silicon Valley Bank would go bankrupt. I ended up having to resolve this NA because, as an aspect of of America's regulatory regime, banks in the U.S. no longer technically go bankrupt. When a bank is undercapitalized and is at risk of going bankrupt, it enters into FDIC receivership. So bankruptcy never happens. But in the colloquial meaning of the term, the bank runs out of money and it has collapsed. So I was in a situation where both the technical meaning and the colloquial meaning were at odds. And if I hadn't had any previous exposure or background on U.S. bankruptcy law, then I would have known this, but I didn't.
Yeah, I think this has come up a couple of times where there's a market where like technically the answer is there's like a loophole where it's never gonna resolve a certain way, but most people have been betting as if it will resolve that way, but then some people find the loophole, start betting as if the loophole is true, and then it's hard to resolve it either way because there's not an understanding about what happens.
Making a market about whether like we make a musical at the math festival and then putting an 8-minute.
No, that was
an 8-minute minimum, and then it was like 7.5 minutes, and then you had to resolve.
Well, but that was 7.5 minutes because of technical difficulties. That was a different.
I worked hard on the music.
But I guess I'm talking more about when cases like this though, where it's like some people then start betting because of the loophole because there's not.
Yeah, the root cause though is a knowledge gap. Whenever people are creating on markets in very complicated areas that they don't fully understand, it's easy to shoot yourself in the foot and pick what you think is a very well-defined resolution criteria that actually is ambiguous or
you don't have the right question to ask or something.
Mm-hmm.
But like, how do you feel about your super alignment market, where it was will super alignment succeed is the title, but the resolution criteria are according to super alignment?
Well, I think yes, yeah. I defend that. I think if you ask will X institution succeed, like that doesn't mean anything in general. To asking whether an institution succeeds, it's a reasonable question to interpret that as whether they will succeed according to their own agenda. Yeah. The question was not will super alignment align AI or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, succeed is also ambiguous. I feel like at that point you need to look at the resolution criteria and see what happens. Yeah.
Someone has a graph about how alignment has been progressing at a rapid pace on that market.
But that graph is going down.
Very funny. No, but there is an interesting gap. There's a 19% chance they succeed. There is a 6% chance they succeed according to Eliezer Yudkowsky. And there is a 10% chance they succeed according to another Manifold user, Joshua. So.
Well, I hope those numbers are true. That would be very good for humanity if they really are that high. I have my doubts about the Eliezer alignment market.
But yeah, that's kind of what I expect. Like, given Manifold's overall philosophy about trying to move fast and
that's the meta answer to this is if the resolution criteria is bad, you should go and create your own market, and the market in general will determine who is the better question asker and reward it with more trading volume and participation.
But
I think that the harder thing though is if there's a market that's already quite popular and established on something, and then something comes up where it's just very unclear. And if you wait until a clarification is issued, then you might lose out on profits from the new information.
Or the other devil's advocate case is that you're like modeling how to write resolution criteria for like users or whatever. But
Right, and we should hold ourselves to a higher bar than our users.
yeah, I don't know.
Or you could just include a disclaimer that's like, or like an automatic banner whenever admins post markets that's like, Manifold is not responsible for any markets that its admins create on their own time.
These markets do not reflect the.
Yeah.
I don't think our markets are that bad.
Even when they come from the No, I think they're probably better. Actually, here's what is the current probability according to the market that Crystal Ballin will release an episode by end of September? I think.
15%.
You didn't know it's 62.
62. Okay. Wow.
I don't believe it.
Jacob's
But
betting it
I have like
against.
10,000 no shares.
The thing is, he's really good at betting against the people who have the power to make something happen.
Exactly.
He did that with this dance. He did that with other stuff.
No, but I feel like I've bet against BTE on this before and won. But also, I don't know. I got scared enough that I'm only leaving it at 62. So it might actually happen.
Well, I hope they do succeed.
Yeah. Exactly.
Competition. I remember we were like racing to get an episode out before them, and they
That's
just
true.
didn't do it.
Yeah, another tradition of this podcast is to make fun of Crystal Ballin. It's very important to us.
They don't
It was
release
referred to
episodes.
as vaporware. I think it's accurate. Okay, this is a market that closed July 21, but has not resolved. So, what is the current percentage of?
A random market that closed in July but hasn't resolved?
No. There's a market that closed on July 21st, and the title of the market is. So, what's the percentage? Have you not seen? Have you not seen? There's a market. It's.
I have not seen.
Oh, it's at 59%.
Oh. Oh, a Wobbles
Could you not, like,
classic.
scroll
Sorry, Wobbles. I haven't been following your markets as diligently as I
Do
should.
you know the
It's
whole?
un-
Do you know the whole
unresolved.
story with how Wobbles sent like Instacarted food to our school?
No,
Yeah, so
I'm
Wobbles,
unaware of
okay.
this.
Wobbles wanted to be a proofnik.
Yeah.
Wobbles wanted to be a proofnik, and he got a hold of a former proofnik who then told him like the food preferences of different proof school administrators, and so then
That's very true.
he Instacarted like some food and then also samosas to the
He sent
school.
samosas and almond joys.
Yeah.
But
But
the
the problem
samosas
was-
were stolen.
Yeah, because he sent it on Sunday, and then he sends an email. So then on that Monday, the head of school like unboxes all the stuff and shows it, and they're all very confused. But then one of the teachers comes to us, and the teacher who really likes samosas comes to us because Wobbles sent him an email that was like, I'm so sorry, I sent stuff and it was like a Sunday instead. I forgot. The thing is, Wobbles attached his real name, and his real name is very close to the real name of a murderer. So he looked it up and found a murderer.
Wow.
And was extremely confused.
Well, Sinclair, what are your Manifold hot takes?
I don't really have many Manifold hot takes. I think
You don't have a Manifold. They're not. Your hot takes are not Manifold.
well I think trolling is mostly good. Okay, hear me out.
Right.
Compared to other social media networks, you know, the betting mechanism can take like people from like different sides of the political aisle, or people who have like very like who would normally be at each other's throats on like Twitter or you know any other social media site, and they can like actually come to a consensus while thinking that they're engaging in some kind of holy battle. So like on like Hacker News or whatever, like if like people are like really disagreeing and like being mean to each other, then it's just like not a productive conversation. But on Manifold, if like people are like really disagreeing with each other, they can just like bet, and then they'll get closer to consensus. It's like,
That's actually a good point.
yeah.
That's a good hot take.
So it's like it's morally good for us to be more like 4chan, basically. But this is like maybe not, it might not be the best thing for the company, but it's like the good thing for the world.
What do you think about Stephen's resolution criteria?
For what? Have you seen my resolution criteria? They're like really bad.
Oh, well, that may
I think it was a roast of Manifold.
Yeah, because it said why writing resolution.
It wasn't a roast.
Like,
It was just an anonymous question that was actually sent to me very civilly, and in this podcast we're making it sound like they were really mean.
No,
But they were actually
their
really
question
nice.
was why do Manifold founders sometimes write bad resolution criteria?
Because we don't have time.
Yeah, we have limited time, but I think it's sort of like in the spirit of Manifold to start with something that's like very basic, or you just like quickly put out a market and then you update it over time in response to feedback. At least that's the hope, and so you would hopefully make it better over time using like sort of minimum like effort, because some people will prod you in the right direction. So that would be the charitable way to view it.
I have a different view. I think even the trolls on our platform, like really early on, like Dr. P, it's like Dr. P resolved all of his markets accurately. You cannot say the same for like the Manifold founders. There were several times in which like Austin fat fingered something, or like I don't know, or like things came out later. Like I think it's about incentives, because like for a user, a Manifold, your reputation's on the line. If you don't like resolve markets well and like create a good experience, people are not going to come back to your markets. Whereas like our incentives are a bit different. We're just trying to like shill a Manifold and try to like make fun questions so that we can post on Twitter or whatever.
I feel like that's actually like a good answer. But yeah, I don't understand any criticism of your market, Sinclair, because they ask important questions like, will Catgirls walk among us by 2030?
Yeah, it's
Very
clear.
Would you like to guess the percentage of that market?
I haven't looked at it in a while.
80%.
But 2030?
Well, what does it even mean?
A cat girl is a pretty girl that is overall human with the exception of cat ears and a tail. Sometimes they have paws, though maybe too experimental for some researchers. To resolve, yes, the ears and tail have to be functional and continuous with the body, not merely accessories. This will likely only occur with significant advancements in biotech, possibly through advanced AI.
Does this mean that the ears and tail have to like function the way that cat ears
It's
and
21
tails do?
letters, by the way.
So like the ears have to like do the constant swiveling, and like the tail has to like work for balance.
I think that would be pretty cool, but
Or just like somebody has to have cat ears grafted to their head and a tail.
Probably just that one, right?
I never really thought about it, you know. But I would want the. I think I would want like the ears that swivel personally.
I think this is some of our best content.
Yeah.
Then it's like 1% chance if it has to swivel.
They have to swivel the
completely.
noise. Yeah.
All right. So, what are your
Kinda
actual
also have to work
predictions
with
for the
your
percentage
skin.
that this market is at right now, or what it should be at?
I think the accurate thing is like something like 2 to 5%. It's probably somewhere around 10.
What is your prediction?
I mean, I think it's probably around 10%.
Okay, it's at 11%. That's correct.
Oh.
But you think betting no is it's just so far out that it doesn't really matter.
I don't know. The future's crazy.
What do you think is the probability that Crystal Ballin will have an episode released by September?
I think you guys should just become Crystal Ballin.
We basically have.
Yeah.
Although I have already told the listeners that as is tradition that this is probably the last episode of the market manipulation.
15%.
Everyone's
Yeah,
been saying
that's
it's
what
at
Austin
but it's at 62 because BTE keeps betting yes. So
Crystal Ballin
do
is a
you
good
believe
name.
BTE, or do you I'm worried that if I bet too much no, then it'll actually happen, or like in some form.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But I don't
he's
know.
making a commitment too, so he keeps
Yeah.
betting so he doesn't lose them, or like there's an incentive for him.
Yeah, or it's actually like my leagues. They keep bouncing around from like the bottom to the top, and it's almost entirely determined by like whether me or BTE was the last better on the Crystal Ballin market. Which we should probably set some more limit orders or something. Where do you see Manifold a million years from now?
That is a really good question. Very alliterative question.
In a post-scarcity world where people have their needs taken care of, mana will actually be important to them. They care about like people's attention and what people think is going to happen. They're like able to spend more time on Manifold, and so in millions of years there'll just be like this like giant mana economy where there are like, because like there's no regulations on Manifold, it'll just have sort of dominated the regular economy because there'll be more like.
You're making a lot of assumptions about like nation states and like I don't know if this is even gonna hold in like 200 years.
This is this kind of question in a million years in the future. But basically, the meta economy will dominate. People will have like a lot of fun spending time like all virtually and.
No, I disagree. On cosmic timescales, there's only a few currencies that matter: time, energy, compute.
Ethereum.
No, I don't know about that.
Bitcoin.
Mana will encompass all of those.
I think it's more accurate to say that people will be trading in prediction markets that are denominated in those currencies or something, or like there'll be like derivatives on top of it or something.
Like,
I don't know. Alright, should we
yeah.
wrap here?
Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Thanks
I
for
don't know
having
where
us.
we're gonna leave in or edit this, but
Yeah. Well, alright, I'm gonna
We
end
can-
it then.